Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's GeneralTarheel bringing you the APA Wi-Fi Season 2 draft analysis. And yes, you did hear me right, APA Wi-Fi. Normally, you always see my APA Showdown videos, and now I am in the APA Wi-Fi League. They did start 1 season ago, created by Miticus and Panther, and I was invited this season to take part of it. I do not have a cap card, unfortunately, so there will be no live comms. I will just be post-comming replays that my friends with capture cards can record for me and send me the file afterwards, and I will do a post-com as well as with the talk over my team build within the battle. Everyone else will be uploading their battles as well, as it is required for the league, and some might do team builders, which would be interesting if you're interested in that, like a separate video, but others might just be doing like talking about their team build in the live com or the replay like I do, which in my opinion makes it a little bit easier on me time-wise, and then also I feel like I don't like going too in-depth about my team builds anymore, because I feel like that gives me a disadvantage at sometimes in possible rematches and stuff, and I'm just like, it's just too much information to give out. But as for the league, I have been starting Wi-Fi and PMU, as if you have been watching those videos, which is very nice. And I'm really enjoying Wi-Fi. It's a little bit better than Showdown. I do have to get used to the fact I can't cancel moves, not that it's actually been a problem yet, knock on wood. But definitely looking forward to it. The only problem is like possible disconnects, which is very annoying. Showdown is just very straightforward, but Wi-Fi does look better and it's more interesting to me, and I can't wait to actually play in it, especially with a lot of my APA friends. And speaking of the league, as you can see, we have a lot of people from the APA Showdown League, which is about half, and then the other half is a bunch of new faces like NPA coaches and a lot of people I just want to like compete against and get to know them. And another thing to add for this whole season of Wi-Fi is that I will be doing face cam. I will have face cam on for every replay battle, as I will have a box in the bottom middle, I believe, for my layout, which Dan provided, which the entire league, which is very nice of him. But as for the draft, I did have the number 3 draft position, which was very solid. And because I always like to be in the upper part of the wheel or have the wheel. I hate the middle so much. I just don't understand how people are okay with that. I prefer to get some like synergy picks like back to back. But the Pokemon I really wanted was Zygarde 50%. I've been wanting to get into past drafts, and I have to like put it aside, or I don't prioritize it, or I get lazy and like let it sit around, which is my main problem in drafts. And that's kind of what I did here. I found synergy with Zygarde that I definitely wanted to grab. So I found a very decent Pokemon that synergized with it. That is definitely a round 1 pick, so I want to make sure I got it. And that was Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor. If you don't know Mega Scizor, this is a very solid pick and a very nice Mega. It is a multi-utility use Pokemon. It can be offensive sweep. It can just be full offense. It can be defensive bulk or def bulk. It can be your defogger. It's got priority with the technician bullet punch. It's got momentum with U-turn. It literally does everything, and I can't wait to use it. I'm going to say that this entire draft, if you haven't seen any of my draft analyses already. So basically it's synergized well with a possible dragon pick, because it's a very solid steel. Also, it only has the weakness to fire, even though it's 4-time resistant, so I'm going to be watching out for HP fires this league. But the only unfortunate part is that I do lose like a resistance to rock, basically. My steel type. Pure steel is honestly the best kind of steel you could get, but it's very hard to find. Mega Scizor's got that nice base 150 attack and the base 140 defense, 75 speed and base 100 speed F. It's a pretty bulky Pokemon. It's the definition like bulky offense, and you can run it full tank if you want to. You can run it fully offensive like I mentioned. Getting bullet punch, U-turn. I can even opt for the bug bite or metal claw if I want to use my technician for offense. Get the swords dance, I get the baton pass, I get the roost, I get the defog. It's just got so many options that it's a very strong Pokemon that I'm going to use effectively, hopefully. I always like to get a nice steal, and the fact I can get around 1 like this is very cool. But unfortunately, since I prioritized round 1, I didn't get the Pokemon that I really wanted, which was Zygarde. It got picked up on round 2 on the way back up the order, which really sucked, because I'm like, I could have gotten that, but I opted against it. But my next pick was actually kind of interesting, because I really wanted this pick, and the 2 people above me, as you can see, one picked Salamence, and the other one picked Lando T as the first overall. So they're 4 times weak to Ike, so weak to ice, not Ike. I fight for my friends. But I definitely want to get my water, because normally water types is what you want to get when you have a pretty decent Pokemon weak to ice. So I went ahead and picked up Milotic round 2. If you don't know how much I love Milotic, then you did not see any APA Season 6. Which I don't blame you, they were low quality videos at the time. But Milotic is just a beauty. Like, I'm glad I picked it up again. A lot of people were questioning it around 2 pick, and I'm like, it's only because the people above me could have picked it up as their ice resist. So that's the only reason I picked it around 2. Otherwise, I was for sure going to grab it round 3. As for Milotic, though, very, very bulky with a nice HP stat. Decent, like 75 base defense, I believe, and then base 125 def. Has that nice base 100 special attack as well, and a base 81 speed. Yes, this is all off the top of my head because I love Milotic. It is a very reliable bulk Pokemon with a beautiful ability in Marvel Scale, where if it gets status, it gets 1.5 times its defense, which is very helpful for Milotic, because the defense is the lower stat, and then I can invest a little def if I need to or something of the sort. But normally you want to run like a max defensive Milotic, which is just like the ideal basic set. But also for the Marvel Scale, it basically got a buff Gen 7 with Milotic because of the burn nerf, because Flame Orb now I can take less damage from that while I still get my Marvel Scale, which is a very ideal set for Milotic if I have very scary physical attackers I'm facing. Other than that, for abilities, Milotic also gets competitive, so if I'm facing like a very strong Intimidator but Milotic does very well offensively for some reason, then I can bring a competitive Milotic. They lower stat. My special attack goes up by 2. So that could be interesting one week for fun. But most likely bringing a bulky Marvel Scale Milotic, because that's what I did best with. All you need is Scald, Ice Beam, Toxic, and Recover. Then you can throw in the Mirror Coat every now and then to get cheesy. I also get option for the Haze in order to get rid of any stats, or for Dragon Tail to switch them out, get rid of stat boost, and get hazard damage if possible. Milotic does get, that's basically all you really need to run with Milotic, and that's all it wants to run. It can run like some weird subsets and stuff like that, but other than that, it doesn't get more coverage. I do believe it gets access to Light Screen, but you don't really need that. The Mirror Coat's the only occasional move that I'm probably going to be running, because I really like using it. But if you didn't know, Milotic did leading kills on my team when I had a Mega Pinsir and a Kyurem on my team as well. So that's basically how I do well with Milotic. It just toxics things and it gets Scald kills, and people just try their best to break it. If this thing gets status, or it's just bulky in general, like some people just can't break it if they don't have a really nice Electric type or a good Grass. And if I have good Pokemon that can take out either of those typings, then Milotic can just eat the rest of the moves from the opponent, which is very nice. So since Zygarde was taken, I was really interested in getting a Dragon this next round, but instead I prioritized a ground type, because I really like my ground typing. It's probably the most important in my opinion. I mean, you of course have like Darks, so you don't get destroyed by Psychic types. You have your Fire, Water, Grass cores and your Dragon, Steel, Fairy cores and stuff like that. But ground is just so strong offensively and then pretty good defensively in my opinion, so I definitely wanted to grab that. And there's a Pokemon I've been meaning to use that I felt like had very good synergy with these two Pokemon that I already grabbed. So instead of grabbing a Dragon type in the Tier 2, which I easily could have done, there was none left in the Tier 1 at this point. Tier 2, I could have grabbed Dragonite, I could have grabbed Hydreigon, I could have grabbed Goodra. I had so many options, but I decided to pick my ground type, which would bite me in the tail eventually, because you see I will not get a Dragon type for a while. But I decided to pick up Gliscor as my ground type. Gliscor is a very bulky Pokemon, and if you didn't think status on Milotic was already a problem, Toxic Orb with Toxic Heal Gliscor is just insane. Like, I've actually hated Gliscor for a very long time just because I couldn't break it like in Gen 6. But now the fact that I get to use it, I'm going to be that guy. But Gliscor's got that bulk, it gets the Stealth Rocks, it gets the Roost, it gets me that nice U-turn momentum, it gets me Taunt for any stall Pokemon. I even get the, of course, the Earthquake, the Acrobatics in case they get rid of my Toxic Orb for my 2 stabs. I even get like Fire Fang and Ice Fang and Thunder Fang. It gets all the elemental fangs, which is normally weird when a Pokemon's like 4 times weak to something. It doesn't get like Ice Fang. But Gliscor can be offensive, it can be defensive. It's got really nice defensive bulk, so you basically run an HP speed def. It's also got base 95 speed, which is very nice because that's a really strong speed tier for a defensive Pokemon. My Lodic was already pretty solid at 81, but Gliscor is just up there. So Gliscor can also be able to run like a substitute Swords Dance set, because some people expect the bulk, and then you can bring an offensive set with Earthquake and like acrobatics. Unfortunately, Gliscor does get defog, but I cannot run the Toxic Heal set. If I want to run defog, I have to be able to run the Hyper Cutter, I believe the other ability is, or whatever the other one is, and which is not ideal. So normally Gliscor is just going to be my first stealth rocker, and Scizor is still my only defogger, is how I see it with this team. But Gliscor is definitely strong defensively, and it basically is the opposite of my Lodic, where I have to run Spadef on Gliscor, but I run defense on my Lodic, and they work well with one another, because my Lodic is only weak to grass and electric. Gliscor is neutral to grass and immunity to electric, but I do have a 4 times resisting grass with Mega Scizor. And then Gliscor is only weak to water and ice, and my Lodic resists both of those very well, since the majority of the time they are special, and my Lodic can just eat that up. So there's the synergy I found on that team. Even though Gliscor's my Lodic might not be a core that people consider, but since I do have that 4 times resistance to grass with Mega Scizor in the back, I feel like this is going to be pretty good. It's not like ideal like Mega Bulk like Cresselia or Clefable or some chancy garbage or Mega Sableye, but I feel like it's what works with me, because it's got an offensive point to it. I have 2 U-turners already for momentum with defensive bulk, which is really cool, because once I get momentum, I try my best to keep it until I overpredict, basically. But so after we have Gliscor, we have rocks and stuff, and I really wanted to grab a wall breaker, because even though Mega Scizor's got that base 150 attack, I'm not bringing offensive all the time. Majority of the time I would bring like a bulky with some offense and stuff like that, but wanted to grab a wall breaker I saw, and this is the first time I decided to make this an option in Draft League for the GBA style, if that's what this was, basically tiers with free points with the Mega. I wanted to go like all tier 2s for my free picks, so my next one was Entei for my fire type. Entei is very strong in the definition of a wall breaker, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and grab it, because I love Emboar. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, and I love Darmanitan, but I'm tired of using them. Like, I want a better fire type, because I never pick up Victini or Volcarona for that matter. So I really want to pick up Entei here. And Entei just breaks stuff with Sacred Fire Choice Band, because you're normally running that Adamant, so you can run Sacred Fire, of course. And then we do get that E-Speed. Other than that, coverage just is basically Stone Edge. I can run Bulldoze if I want to. Normally you just run a second Flare Blitz just so you have a stronger option than Sacred Fire if you like, but Sacred Fire is just more ideal because it does get that 50% burn and there's no recoil, but you do have a likelihood of missing. But Entei just puts in very strong damage versus a team, which is very nice, which is what I needed for this, because I have a very solid like offensive bulk core right now. So as of right now, I just want to get wall breakers to add up with that, and soon I'll be investing in speed and such. But Entei, just with that Sacred Fire, that's all you need to click. I mean, the really only check to that is Bulky Waters, which I will have an answer to later on, even though I don't right now. But Entei can just put in work, man. I've already used it before in draft, along with my Lodic. Otherwise, like Mega Scizor and Gliscor. Actually, let me just go ahead and point this out. My Lodic and Entei, my entire draft, those are the only ones I've used before in Draft League. So this draft's going to be interesting for me, which is really cool. But Entei has that base 115 attack. It's got the base 100 speed, but you do normally always run Adamant, so it's basically a base 85 speed tier, which is very unfortunate. Other than that, it does give me other priority in E-Speed along with the Bullet Punch on Mega Scizor, which is very cool. And it's just the offensive Pokemon I really need. It's got decent HP and bulk to where it can take a few hits if need be, which is pretty awesome. I can run a special Entei if I want for some reason. But that's what I decided to go with. And after getting a big physical threat like Entei, I wanted to get 2 special offensive threats. Since considering I have Gliscor and Entei, so it kind of evens it out between physical attack and special attack. And my next pick is a Mon that I wanted to get in a previous draft, but I was sniped from it. And it is also my first C user, and that is Gengar. And Gengar, of course, will be my last Tier 2 pick, as I spent 360 points already as we come to round 5. So that's cool. But Gengar is my spin blocker, which is very nice, and a very strong Ghost type. Offensively, Ghost is ridiculous, because, I mean, the only resistance is Dark, and then Immunity and Normal. So Gengar is very strong with the base 110 speed and base 130 special attack. Other than that, it lacks in its defenses, and its attack isn't even something to call out for. But Gengar is a very nice offensive Pokemon and Z user as that, as I get 2 Z captains, and my first one is Gengar. There's no switch-ins to like a offensive Gengar with Focus Blast, Fight, and EMZ. It's honestly ridiculous. Just Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, Fighting EMZ, and then some other coverage. Gengar's a madman. I can run like Choice Scarf for Choice Specs with Trick. I got a 100% Toxic user now, which I guess is cool. It absorbs T-Spikes for me, which is always nice. The Rapid Spin block, like I mentioned, like even though I only have Gliscor with hazards now, I will get more hazards later on in my draft. That was a voice crack. So I get a spin blocker, which is cool. But basically, this is just a nice wall breaker for Pokemon if they don't have like an AV or if they don't have a Spadef Pokemon. So Gengar is just really interesting to me. I've been meaning to use it. It also gets cool utility. I think I just said utility. Cool utility and Will-O-Wisp, Encore. Or maybe that's a lie. I don't think it gets Encore. No, it gets Disable. And like Protect and Destiny Bond, stuff like that. Just being like a annoying ghost type like it is in the anime and stuff like that. So Gengar is a mon that I've been meaning to use, and I'm glad I picked it up. Don't necessarily know if it suits my team well, but I just felt like I wanted to go ahead and grab a lot of offense for these next few picks, and that's definitely what I did. As my next pick is a mon that synergizes with Entei. As I mentioned, Entei cannot deal well with the bulky waters, so I decided to get my tier 1 that can absolutely destroy any bulky waters, and that is Thunderous Eye. I could have picked Thunderous T, but I wanted to prioritize that Prankster with Thunderous Eye, which is very nice. And I didn't really need Volt Absorb in my opinion, because Spadef, I guess Scizor can take on stuff pretty well. And then Gliscor has that nice immunity, even though HP Ice is very common with electric types. So, I mean, maybe I should have gotten Thunderous T, but even then it would have just been hit with the HP Ice, so it's whatever. So, Thunderous Eye has the nice base 111 speed, only 1 less speed than Gengar, so it's not like an amazing speed tier that I'm really grabbing here. Thunderous T would have been actually a little bit better, considering Entei's never going to be at the base 100, like Thunderous T would be at the base 101, which just creeps base 100s, which is very cool, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's necessary. And for Thunderous Eye, I get the nice Prankster T-Wave, which is very cool. Prankster Tailwind? No, it doesn't get Prankster Tailwind. I have another Taunt user. This gives me another Momentum and Volt Switch and U-Turn, which is very cool. Base 115 special attack and then base 110 attack, I believe, or it's base like, no, base 125 special attack, base 115 attack is what I think Thunderous Eye is. So it can be run offensively or special attack based, because it also does get the Defiant ability, which is the opposite of competitive. So if I am facing Intimidate, then I get a +2, but I'm lowered, so it's really just a +1. Or if they get like a Spadef drop off like a Shadow Ball, then I get that +2 attack. And plus, Physical Thunderous is definitely an option between, I believe, does it get Fly? I think it gets Fly. And then you can run a Wild Charge with it. And then, but mainly, this is just the offensive Electric type that I wanted to take on these waters. So Entei can just Wall Break, and Thunderous Eye can take on the counters for Entei, or vice versa, because Thunderous technically main counters is like Spadef bulky Pokemon. Majority of the time you can't run both defenses, so Entei just Wall Breaks for that. So some synergy there, I guess. But I'm really looking. The Prankster really just helped my team, in my opinion, and it's always good to get a speedy Electric type. And at this point, there was not really a tier 1 that I wanted. I really wanted Sylveon, in all honesty, but Hugo was taking it from me, so I was like, crap. But Sylveon would have kind of been busted with my bulk, in my opinion. So I feel like Thunderous was a little bit better. Also considering the tier 3 Electric Jolteon that I had in mind was already taken. So I'm like, I guess it worked out in the end. So Thunderous, as you know, its rolls now. And as for my round 7 pick, I want to go ahead and pick up another Hazard Remover, as well as finish my Fire Water Grass Core. So I picked up the new Gen 7 Mon Serena. Been meaning to use it. A lot of people act like they don't enjoy it too much, but I feel like I can use it decently. It's got pretty good bulk. I forget its base HP, but I know its base defenses, defense and Spadef are both 90. Speed stat is a little low, and then it's got base 120 attack, which is kind of ridiculous, and it's got a decent move pool. Drop Kick is really cool. This is a special grass type move for it. It's physical, base like 80, I think, and it always lowers the attack of the Pokemon, which is very nice. Also gets high jump kick, which is interesting. Gives me U-turn momentum, so I have another U-turn momentum Pokemon between Gliscor, Mega Scizor, and Thunderous Eye, which is very cool. So I got 4 users already. And then Serena gives me that Rapid Spin, so I don't have to force Defog and Mega Scizor. Gives me an Aromatherapy user, even though I don't want to really use Aromatherapy between Milotic or Gliscor, but just in case I can bring it if I'm not bringing Gliscor, or I don't really intend on using a Marvel Scale Milotic. But majority of the time, my bulk doesn't worry about status. If anything, they gain what I want from status. But I'm just pointing out the Aromatherapy help. It does get Synthesis if I want to run bulk, but ideally, like AV Serena is really cool between the U-turn, Rapid Spin, and then High Jump Kick, Drop Kick, so it's basic moves. But otherwise, I can run like a Synthesis set, stuff like that. Really just wanted the Rapid Spin in to finish my core. I don't know how well it will work out, but at the same time, they were like taking a lot of grass types at this point. I had just about nothing left. So that's why I opted Serena. Next up, I wanted to make sure I could grab the Dragon that I've been meaning to get. Well, not been meaning to get, but I wanted the typing for a while, and I basically prioritized poorly. So I picked up Druddigon as my tier 4 Dragon. It's not an ideal Dragon, but it's a very solid Dragon at that. It gets very nice abilities. Oh, wait. Need to mention that for Serena. Serena does get Queen's Majesty, which is a very cool ability, which blocks priority. Okay, now we can go back to Druddigon. Druddigon gets very nice abilities in Sheer Force, Mold Breaker, and Rough Skin. Mainly looking at Rough Skin because I'm liking bulky Druddigon, even though offensive Druddigon with Sheer Force is something to fear for sure. Because Druddigon does have a decent HP stat, but it has a nice base 120 attack, just like Serena, which doesn't look like they would have the same attack stat. But and then I believe it has similar defensive stats to Serena as well, with like around the 90 range, 95. Low speed and low special attack, but we're not worried about that with Druddigon. Druddigon also gives me my second Stealth Rock user besides Gliscor, which is very nice because you don't always want to force that on a Mon. Druddigon gives me a physical answer because of that Rough Skin. I can also run Rough Skin Rocky Helmet, which is a very nice Druddigon set. Gives me a Toxic user. He has very strong coverage, which is very nice for Druddigon. To where I can always have a check to what might be an answer to Druddigon. Whether that be like Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, EQ, Dragon Tail, Roar, Stone Edge, Rock Slide, anything like that. Druddigon has very strong coverage. The Sheer Force offense is pretty strong, so I might use that one game. But majority of the time, I'm looking like at a Rough Skin, just bulky Mon to help out, you know. And as for my next pick after Druddigon, I was really debating whether I wanted a fighting type or a dark type because I knew what I wanted for the rest of the draft at this point. And it was pointed out to me by Jock that I really need a dark type. Like, you never want to be super weak to Psychic and basically not have an immunity because then stored power can sweep you, which really sucks. So I prioritized dark over fighting, even though fighting stat, like, I really want him a champ with this team, and then I'm not worried about like status at all. But I decided to go ground, and I picked up another hazard setter, and a Mon I've been meaning to use, which is Greninja. The picture on Greninja for the slide is a little squashed, but it will do. Picked up Greninja tier 3. Never really used it because I always prefer my bulky waters, and then I always pick up another random dark type. But Greninja gets me spikes and toxic spikes, which is really why I wanted to pick it up. Because I always love to hazard stack if I can, and since I have Stealth Rock users, I want to make sure I could go ahead and grab those hazards as well. Gives me another U-turn momentum Pokemon, which is really cool. And even though it's only got like base 95 or 98 attack and then base 103 special attack, it's got that nice base 122 speed, which is a very nice speed tier. Gets me above the base like 110 and 111 that I already have with Gengar and Thunder's Eye. Basically just going to be a possible offensive hazard stacker in Greninja. Just give me another taunt user, which is cool. And basically, it's just there to do a little work. I really was considering making this my Z-Mon, but I did just decide between Gengar and Thunderous Eye, because those were definitely my strongest Mons, because I see myself bringing them more than I do Greninja. Greninja is just that helpful dark type in the back, as well as a hazard setter, in my opinion. Otherwise, I could bring like a Choice Specs Hydro Pump Ice Beam set and stuff like that. This is only Torrent, by the way, not Protean or anything busted. So it's basically just a utility of a dark type and hazard setter when I picked it up here. I was considering Zoroark, but I really wanted the hazards in Greninja then instead of Zoroark. But Zoroark did seem like a pretty cool Pokemon. But that's basically the basics of Greninja. Yes, I just was that redundant. This is actually a redo of my draft analysis, by the way, because I was so completely redundant and like entirely, and it was like a very long draft analysis, and I wanted to cut it as much as I could. But anyways, moving on to my last picks. Both are tier 5. I wanted to pick up another rapid spinner, and I wanted to pick up a fairy type, and I decided to pick up Claydol as my rapid spinner. Gives me my first psychic type as well as another ground immunity, as well as another ground type, because this is actually my first resistance to rock. As Mega Scizor is, even though it's got that Ice Knight defense and it can still take it on, it's not a resistance to rock, which sucks as it's supposed to be my steel type. And then Gliscor is my ground type, but it's ground flying, so it's neutral to rock. Even though they're both strong defensively, I always want like a resist to rock, because rock is a very strong offensive typing, not defensively or other than that, and there's not that many of them, but still it's always good to have a counter. And I needed a psychic type anyways for Claydol. I've been wanting to use Claydol. It's got a really weird bulk, like it's low HP, and then its defense and SPDF are decent. Attack and special attack are both base 80. Speed is like base 70. That might be a lie. I have no clue. I don't remember off the top of my head. But other than that, I can run a physical or a special Claydol when I run it bulky, because just about always I'm running a bulky Claydol. Gives me another stealth rock user as well as with the rapid spin, which is very cool. Gives me a dual screen setter, which is very nice. I did not mention that with Serena. Serena could run light screen Serena with dual screens, just like I can with Claydol here. Claydol, so I can run mix with like Earth Power or Earthquake, Zen Headbutt or Psychic, and then it does get a few other coverage moves, like it gets Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, stuff like that. Basically just a low tier pick that I've just been meaning to want to try, and it had decent synergy with my team because I really want to get rid of hazards, and nor do I want to force defog on my Gliscor or always rely on a Serena pick. So that's it behind Claydol. And as for my final pick, I decided to pick up Ribombee as my fairy type. Not the most ideal fairy type because it is so frail, it is not a switch into dragons, but since I have a strong defensive check in Scizor for dragons with that steel typing, I'm not really worried about it. Even though most dragons do get fire type coverage, which really sucks in order to hit Scizor. I'll just have to work around it. If I do have to make some FAs, then I will make FAs, but Ribombee is my fairy type because it also gives me my bug type I didn't have, so I was like, why not? Actually, I take that back already. Mega Scizor was my first pick of the draft, and it was bug type, so there we go. But Ribombee, you know what it does. It just Quiver Dance sweeps. That's all it can really do. Like, other than that, it's got no strong use. Gives me another U-turn momentum Pokemon, I guess. But, basically, it's just there to get a possible sweep with Quiver Dance. Need my fairy typing, because offensive fairy does pretty well. I was considering Comfey, but Comfey was tier 4. Not only was it already picked up, but I really want Druddigon as my dragon, so I prioritized dragon over fairy, which might come back to hurt me, but I mean, who knows. Because my team is pretty weak to dragon now that I see about it, but we will make do when we face them. But that's it for my draft analysis. I'm very indifferent about my team. I feel like it will do work. It's very unorthodox for me to draft like this, or anyone to draft like this, getting 4 tier 2s. Which is kind of ridiculous, because ideally you always want a tier 1, but I mean, after I started drafting tier 2s, I'm like, there's no tier 1s I want left. So basically it was me just being dumb this entire draft, but I like the team, so hopefully it works out. If not, I'm gonna have to be making a lot of weird FAs. Like, I would have to drop 2 tier 2s and something like pick up a tier 1 or something else like that, or I can drop a tier 2 and I pick up a tier 3 and then drop my tier 4, drop like Ribombee for a tier 4 fairy or something like that. But I'm not really looking into FAs right now. I'm just looking into kicking off the season and starting off well. I know our first match is against Coach Nidor in the Montreal Explodes, so make sure to check that out. I feel like we'll do well and hopefully kick off the season right with a win. So that'll be it from me. Make sure to sub, like, share, deuces.